Good evening, friends, and welcome to Defining Virtuosity, my YouTube channel on fundamentals of the violin. In the last video, we discussed 5 actions of the right hand, including vertical motion of the wrist and fingers, horizontal motion, pivoting within the hand, pivoting at the elbow through rotation and supination, and changing the angle of the bow from the frog to the tip through that sort of windshield wiper motion, and that all those actions can happen actively and passively in order to allow freedom of the elbow joint, the wrist, and the shoulder when we apply weight to the string. In the chapter on the left hand, Mr. Galamian identifies several actions of the left hand. Vertical actions, and that would include lifting and dropping any finger. The act of lifting a finger and dropping a finger, okay? He then brings up the horizontal motions of the finger, which can be extending a finger, contracting a finger, that we can move fingers back from a point and up to a sharper point. To that we add string crossings. We have to be able to cross strings, going from one string to another, sometimes reversing the orientation of the fingers from one shape to another shape, carefully and naturally. And then finally, shifting, leaving one position and going to another, and vibrating, the release of the hand, the ability for notes to be vibrant. Again, to review these actions, and it's very important that we become very clear on what we're doing at all times with the hand. We have vertical actions of the left hand, which are lifting and dropping. 1, 2, lifting and dropping. We have crossing strings, makes 3. We have shifting, makes 4. We have extending, 5. Contracting, 6. Vibrating, 7. So these are basically the 7 things that the left hand can do. There's obviously more. There's how the thumb can move, how the arm moves to keep us parallel to the fingerboard, you know, the whole way up and down. Well, and we'll get into that in later videos. But I think I shared with you from the very first video that I wanted you to consider adopting the idea that virtuosity was the fanatical application of a limited set of values to every aspect of a task. There are very few rules that I like to emphasize over and over, but there are a few. One is that I believe none of the 7 actions of the left hand should cause the inside of the index finger to clasp the E string side of the neck. We should find angles that allow us not to do that. That's one. I also believe that even when we strike down fingers, no matter how much impact strike force there is, there's a bounce back, and that the first joint of each finger should be supple. There's never the idea of dropping a claw that's locked like this, but always the idea that there's a sensation of rubberiness there. The third is that there never be too much finger pressure against the thumb or the string being played. Once that string is down into the fingerboard, it ain't going any further. And there's so many times I see people's left-hand technique and ease hindered by the fact that they have way too much pressure on the note before a shift, or on the arrival note after a shift, or something like that. So we'll talk about finger pressures, monitoring finger pressures and thumb pressures a lot. And finally, we should avoid squeezing the left shoulder up and forward when we're doing these actions. As a matter of fact, it's good to frequently take your shoulder rest off, rest the fiddle on your collarbone, and find moments when you can sort of balance the fiddle in the thumb and hand, still vibrate or shift, and keep the elbow free left to right and up to down, that you practice that. If you find the right angles, the positioning for the elbow, you'll be able to do that. And to help with that, you can just do simply some 1-octave scales with your 4th finger. I'll show that in another video. But that's good for teaching us how far the hand has to be around. You know, you can go from a D to a D, or you actually can also practice all the way from 3rd position going up an octave. So from an F to an F on the G string, C to C, G to G, D to D. And what that does is it makes sure that the entire hand is moving into position. Leave the other fingers on the same string gently underneath and go up the full octave. And you'll train yourself how much your thumb needs to come around to clear the instrument so that the fingers can comfortably drop. Again, even in the highest positions, beware not to lock this shape, but to always have that feeling in your fingers when they strike down, and that you isolate the base knuckle motion. Yeah. The reason that I went through these 7 actions so carefully is when you're practicing a scale, for example, if you're very clear on exactly what you're doing, are you dropping a finger? And where are you dropping it? Is it dropping close to the finger that was played before it or far? That determines both the shape of the previous finger and the shape of the new one, and will help you to develop a not rigid, but still structured, organized frame for your different intervals, whether you have a half step between 2 and 3, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, all whole steps or more, or even strange frames that we use for the top of arpeggios, for example, when the hand spans a 6th. So this is your first lesson on the 7 actions of the left hand. Beginning in the subsequent videos, we'll start doing some lessons with actual music. And for the basis of all of my left hand and right hand training, guess what? I use scales. So look forward to the next video when we will introduce simple 1-octave scales, fundamental strokes, catch and release, arm weight, bow direction, and some things like that. Thanks for listening. If you like this, share it with friends. Bye.